Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into the ProRevenge archives. Our first story today comes to us from Sunny KL. Dispute over an alarm clock ends a career. Let's jump right in. A recent petty revenge story made me remember this experience from my teenage years, but this one definitely went all the way to pro. Strap in, it's going to be long. So just before my senior year in high school, I turned 18 and bought a car with my saved up years of babysitting money. I'd have liked one sooner, but my mother absolutely refused. At 18, in my big act of teenage rebellion, I went out and bought one. A couple months later, Auntie Butthole suddenly left her job from several states away and moved in with us, without her car. It cost less if she waited 6 months until spring to get it shipped. Something about snowbird travel patterns. She was cheap and a user as well as a butthole. As a result, I was expected to share my recently acquired car with Auntie Butthole until hers arrived. This seemed deeply unfair, but nonetheless, it was agreed upon that she could use it for appointments and job interviews since I could take the school bus. I needed to be warned in advance because my bus stop was the second one of the route. It left a lot earlier than I needed to if driving direct, and I liked sleep. You may be wondering about now what this has to do with an alarm clock. Auntie Butthole is one of those people who likes to rile people up, then mock them for getting pissed off. She always got a complaint, harsh word, and is feuding with somebody over something. Once she moved in with us, her complaint was my alarm clock. My room shared a wall with hers. The alarm was waking her mooching, unemployed broke butt up every morning, and that pissed her off. Couldn't I just go to bed earlier so I didn't need an alarm clock? The morning schedule at our house went something in the ballpark of this. 5:30 a.m., my workaholic mother leaves for the office. 5:45 a.m., my alarm goes off if taking the bus to school. 6:15 a.m., my alarm goes off if driving to school. 6:15, I leave if taking the bus to school. 6:45, I leave if driving to school. 1/2 never, Auntie Butthole's employed tushy needs to be anywhere. Auntie Butthole approached my workaholic mother about the horrific inconvenience of my using an alarm clock. Her solution was that my mother should wake me up every day at 5:30 before leaving. My mother told her to try earplugs or work it out between us. Workaholic mother was massively non-confrontational and wanted no part of Auntie Butthole's dispute. Auntie Butthole started sneaking into my room to unplug the clock after I fell asleep. I'm a hard sleeper, so she pulled this off a few times. I had a good number of tardies before I figured out it wasn't the new cat who initially got blamed. Woke up to see her standing over my bed one night. Creepy. I screamed like a banshee, waking the whole house. She claimed sleepwalking, and my mother let her get away with that lame excuse. I endeavored to solve the problem myself with some super glue. Not the brightest move I made. That house got sold with a bonus electric blue alarm clock, and Auntie Butthole started turning the alarm off instead of unplugging it. So I started sleeping with my alarm clock tucked behind my pillow. No way Auntie Butthole could do anything to it without waking me now. She was pissed at having not gotten her way and never let anything go ever. Auntie Butthole's next move was to get up when the alarm went off and race into the only bathroom with a shower. It was closer to her room than mine, so she always beat me there. She'd stash magazines in there to sit on the commode, reading until right around 6:20. This is after the school bus has left, but still before I need to leave driving direct. Once I was taking a very rushed shower, she'd steal my keys and take my car, wherever the heck the unemployed go to drive around all day. She claimed that I just wasn't paying attention when she said she needed the car. She wasn't telling me. When my mother wasn't around, she made snide remarks that if she was woken up, she had just as much right to the bathroom as I did. I could solve this problem by not waking her up. In addition to this, she would take my car evenings and weekends, always right before I had babysitting gigs. It never returned with more than fumes in the gas tank. She had to call roadside assistance twice for running out of gas because she'd guessed wrong on how far she could get on fumes. Needless to say, I was pissed. Also massively inconvenienced and a lot poorer. I had to beg friends for last-minute rides or take a cab. She continued to blame me, and my mother stayed out of it. We got into a cat and mouse game with my keys, where I eventually kept them on me at all times, even in the shower. This was an old car some years back. No electronic keys were harmed. The keys came in the shower with me because the counter wasn't enough to stop her from pulling the bathroom lock, pocket door, trivial, and coming in while I was showering to take them. Again, creepy. This eventually resulted in her asking in advance to borrow my car for a job interview that probably wasn't. She went to the key shop and got my car keys copied. The next day, my keys safely back in my possession, she pulls the shower stunt again. She did it a lot, even when she wouldn't take my car. Auntie Butthole was a butthole. I head out to the driveway, keys in hand, and my car's not there. Legit thought she'd hotwired it until I got home and it showed no signs of tampering. I'm not much for poking the bear, but it was time to have this out. Auntie Butthole quite smugly admitted to copying the key, called me a selfish bee who didn't know how to share, and many other unfortunate things I don't remember exactly. She wasn't giving it back. What was I going to do? I warned her that car was mine, and she did not have permission to use it ever again. This was a bridge too far for me. There would be consequences. She laughed in my face. The next morning, my car was not in the driveway. I'd expected this. My best friend's dad was a cop. I was practically a fixture in his house for a decade, and he was the closest thing I had to a father figure due to my own deadbeat dad. So I gave him a call, utterly distraught that the car I've worked so hard to get has been stolen from my driveway. He's very sympathetic. Did I mention the car had LoJack? It was actually a very nice car, back when it was new anyway. We do all the reporting and whatever it takes for the cops to find it with LoJack. By mid-afternoon, they'd found it in the parking lot of an outlet mall. I don't know what the full details of the encounter were, as I've heard multiple versions of this part of the story over the years. She had some kind of crazy bee tizzy on them upon being accused of theft, including a tussle with an officer. It ended in charges of grand theft auto, resisting arrest, assaulting an officer, and some kind of license-related thing because she'd never switched it to her new state of residence. Don't throw a bee tizzy at a cop, they don't like it much. As this all took some time, she didn't get arraigned that day. As her unemployed broke butt had horrid credit and little money, she couldn't make bail. As I deleted her answering machine message begging my mother to come bail her out, my workaholic mother didn't even notice she was gone for almost a week. Once workaholic mommy did notice, I explained that my car had been stolen and I called the cops. I was handling the situation myself like she suggested. The look of dawning horror was amazing. Then she shrugged and went back to avoiding all confrontation. Auntie Butthole served 2 weeks in county lockup until she took a plea deal. I suspect they slow-walked her paperwork a bit. What happened after was glorious revenge. Auntie Butthole's remaining savings were used up all on the fines and court fees, so she finally got around to shipping her car and engaging in a job hunt. One problem, she was previously a teacher. She'd yet to get her certification in her new state. Now she had a rap sheet and was unable to pass the background check. Whoops, time for a new career as a telemarketer. Auntie Butthole didn't bother me much after that. I learned years later she only went after kids hard, and I had proved enough of an adult she realized there were consequences for her actions. We spent the next few months ignoring each other before I headed to college. And that's how a dispute over an alarm clock ended Auntie Butthole's teaching career. Now, OP added an edit on to the end of the story. It says, edited to answer a few repeat questions. What's up with your mother? Mental illness. She was not a bad person. She simply had almost no capacity to deal with conflict and retreated into her work as a coping mechanism. With time and understanding, I am sympathetic to her role. She has since passed away. Why didn't you call the cops sooner? I had never dealt with anybody so lacking boundaries like Auntie Butthole before. I genuinely thought there was a limit, and I just had to handle things until we got there in the name of family harmony. It was also supposed to be temporary. I had college coming up quick, and she was supposed to find a job and apartment, so it was very time-bounded. It's the nuclear option to call the cops on a family member, and a very scary thing to contemplate at 18 years old. I also wasn't sure it would work, given she would claim I was confused about permission, and the chances my mother would back me up were close to zero. Once I still had my keys in hand and no car in the driveway, that was a game changer in my eyes. Can we get more of an epilogue? There's not a lot to say. I went no contact with Auntie Butthole after leaving for college. Between her prison stint and my departure, she ignored me and I returned the favor. I found out later that she only seriously picks on kids. I proved myself an adult who could deliver consequences for her actions. Now I spend holidays with my husband's lovely family and visit the stable family members at other times. Okay, hold up a second. This person's career revolved around ensuring the success of students. And then she tried to ruin a student's future. OP, I think you did the school system a favor. You put her where she needed to be. It sounds like this woman has absolutely no business in a classroom around students. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from Singer is a Crook. Treat me like crap for almost 2 years for minimum wage. I reach my breaking point and get my friends to quit with me, causing my former boss, who was also area manager, to lose his job. Let's jump right in. So I worked for a Dunkin' Donuts in my hometown starting around February 2016 and worked till around midsummer last year. My boss and area manager, we'll call Big B, was an unprofessional and horrible boss. I was still in high school at the time, and he only gave me weekends for months on end, occasionally giving me a weekday just to clean the store like a monkey. Big B was a butthole to say the least. He'd treat us workers like we were dogs, and he would be noticeably annoyed when a customer would take a long time to order. Or when we'd F up an order, he would two-face us, tell the customer that he's sorry that we F'd up. Then, when the customer would leave, he'd make snarky remarks about her to us like we were in on berating her. Stupid butt lady don't know what she want, man. When it got busy, we're supposed to work as a team, but when it gets busy, he'd yell at us and tell us to hurry up, which would put us all in a bad mood, and we'd actually work slower and decrease throughput value. When it came to making pack out, which was when we'd restock the sandwich station and the freezer, he would work without wearing gloves, which was unsanitary. Made donuts and baked goods like that too, no gloves. He would get complaints, but his boss who owned the store wouldn't do anything about it. So he'd get away with unsanitary workmanship. This doesn't matter now because he'd just make me do it mostly every day in the summer. So when summer came around, I got more hours, which was nice, but stressful beyond belief. After summer ended, he offered me the opening coordinator position because he had no one else and I needed more hours and money, so I took the offer. I had to wake up at 2 a.m. every morning to go open the store and bake all the goods and make extra donuts before the store would open at 4 a.m. And I needed money, so I didn't complain. But it got too stressful when he would constantly berate me because he'd come in at 4 a.m. to help out with the customers, but he'd make me help the customers. He'd then yell at me for not finishing on time. I got $8.75 an hour to come in and bake. My two good friends, both named David, needed a job, so I hooked them up to work at Dunkin' because I thought I would have extra help now for morning baking. But of course, they get put on customer service, and seeing how B would treat them disgusted me. He treated them like they were brainless monkeys, and I started to question why I was doing this to myself. I got a second job at a hotel as a bellman, and I was treated so much better. The two Davids got jobs there too, and we all pulled 2 jobs for a while. Then, midsummer 2017, after a year of baking and getting up 6 days a week at 2 a.m., just to now start leaving at 6 a.m. to go to the hotel, I decided that I was working for the wrong man. I up and left the store at 5:30 a.m. before B comes. I told my coworkers that I loved working with them, but I just can't do it. I left, rode home on my bike, and called both Davids. Told them both not to come in, and that I was sorry that they had to go through his insults on how they were so slow. Later that week, one of my other coworkers gets fired by him because she finally snapped on him. Then, another coworker just left because I sent her a big long paragraph on why she should quit. She heeded my word and left. I've been gone from Dunkin' since the summer. Today I had orientation for a new job, and I offered to give a sweet old lady a ride home because she lived in the same town and we'd be working at the same store together. Turns out her daughter works at Dunkin', and I heard Big B got fired because of the mass loss of workers. It was the best thing I've heard in a long time. He treated me and my coworkers like crap. unsanitary piece of crap is gone. This happens all the time in low-paid jobs, be it fast food or even retail. The manager treats their staff like crap, but as long as things are running properly, they don't get reprimanded. In fact, the upper management generally won't even look at the store if they're pulling the proper numbers. Just remember, your time is the most valuable asset you have, and if you could be putting that time to better use, then you should go and do that. If that means quitting a job and going to work somewhere else, then so be it, because you need to do what you can do to get ahead in life. Our last story today comes to us from Cocktails Perfected. We've all had bad bosses before, right? Let's jump right in. Not sure if this is pro-revenge or petty revenge, but I figure I'd post it here. This doesn't paint me in a great light, but I was 18 or 19 at the time and a dick. About 8 or 9 years ago, I worked retail in a small outdoor goods store, 6 members of staff small, ski stuff in the winter, camping, hiking in the summer. I wasn't passionate about it, but a job's a job. The woman who hired me left pretty soon after I started. She got a job that was in the field of her degree, and she left the store in the care of the supervisor at the time, Lauren. Lauren was the kind of girl we have all had the poor fortune to deal with at some point. Irresponsible, held power over you when it suited her, and tried painfully hard to be your best friend the next. Annoying at best as a supervisor, but abusive with her power as a manager. She started changing people's shifts, so she was never in the store during peak hours. She'd take the easy shifts when the store was dead, and would spend her time hanging out in the back office, doing important paperwork, read, sitting on her phone, or reading a magazine. Then she'd start hiring her friends as and when they wanted to work. The staff ended up turning into a conveyor belt of hot topic wannabe models. A few of them were okay, but I remember one of them working a night shift, covering a close for Lauren, and closing early, emptying the till, and never being seen again. Lauren later said she'd only known him a week before hiring him. The worst thing she did, though, was abuse the 3-month probation rule. Off the top of my head, they went through 8 different members of staff over the course of 5 months. That might not sound like a lot, but in a store of 6 employees, it wasn't a small amount. A member of staff would be hired and would be doing great, and then all of a sudden, "I'm sorry, we don't need your services anymore," and they were gone. "It's just not working out," vanished. "I just don't think you're the right fit for this role," disappeared. No notice period, nothing, just gone. I found out during one of her "please like me" spells that the area manager hadn't actually promoted her to be a full manager yet. He wanted to make sure she was the best option for the role. She basically thought that so long as no one else lasted long enough to shine better than her, she'd get the manager role and all perks that come with it. We then hired a woman called Kirsty, who was in her mid-late 30s and was a great person. Enthusiastic, a team player, great with customers. I mean, pretty much exactly what you want in a manager. However, when it was just me and Lauren would go off on how she doesn't like Kirsty, how she's thinking about getting rid of her unless her attitude improved, etc. And I decided to step in. I got my phone and hit record as Lauren went on another rant later on. "Here's the thing Kirsty doesn't get. I'm in charge. I can fire whoever I want. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if I was taking over from that fat bellend of an area manager we have now in a year," etc, etc. I just let her talk, only responding with "really? Oh yeah?" That night, I sent the video to Kirsty, telling her to make sure she was on her best behavior, but she ended up taking the issue up with the area manager. He came to the store, called Lauren out, told her that in the time she'd been in charge, the store had lost somewhere in the region of $15,000 to $20,000. They had to get the police involved against her friend who stole from the tills, and our store for some reason had one of the highest turnover rates in the country. He fired her on the spot. Kirsty ended up taking over as manager, and the store finally started turning a profit. Managers who like to talk about all the employees behind their backs are honestly some of the best ones you can have when you want to destroy them. As was the case in this story, if a manager says something about a coworker, I would go to that coworker and let them know, because they might get really angry with it and do something about it. And if you're not the kind of person who's going to take down the manager yourself, maybe they are. Check out all 3 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.